I want to talk about the three projects that are being pursued that relate to San Diego, and in particular, the first project I want to talk about is Carlsbad. I think. How many of you know about the Carlsbad Desalination project? I think that most everybody in the room has heard about it, or followed it, or somehow been touched by the issue related to the Carlsbad Desal project. It is a 50 million gallon per day project that's being developed by a private company, Poseidon Resources. It has a certified environmental impact report, and it is a fully permitted project, and that process took basically a decade to accomplish. The way that the financial structure or the project structure would work is that the water produced by the Carlsbad project would be potentially purchased by the Water Authority under a water purchase agreement. Now, that structure has evolved over time, and in the past, Poseidon was pursuing a structure whereby they were going to sell water to various retail agencies. They had actually had contracts with 9 of our member agencies. That structure ultimately was found not to be financeable, and that led to the Water Authority stepping in to become the potential purchaser of all of the supply from the project. The project is 50 million gallons a day. That's 56,000 acre feet annually. It's a base loaded plant. It would just basically run flat out for 24/7 with a minimum amount of downtime. Back in the summer of last year, the Water Authority Board, Chair Hogan and his board, approved a term sheet between the Water Authority and Poseidon that kind of laid out the framework for a potential agreement whereby the Water Authority would purchase the water from the Carlsbad project. We still have yet to negotiate a water purchase agreement. One of the things that has been an issue has been for all of the agencies that had water purchase agreements to relinquish those agreements. And early on, we had 8 of the 9 agencies relinquish their water purchase agreements. 1 did not, and that was the City of Carlsbad. The City of Carlsbad has a unique role as both a retail agency of the Water Authority and a host city for this project. So there were some issues that the Water Authority in Carlsbad needed to work through, and hopefully tonight the Carlsbad City Council is going to act to approve an agreement between the Water Authority in Carlsbad that would allow us to have all of those provisions taken care of, so that we could potentially sit down and negotiate a water purchase agreement. There is planned a public process as this water purchase agreement is developed. There will be a public process where we will have workshops with our board, and the public will have an opportunity to talk about that as it moves forward. The project is intended to connect directly into the Water Authority aqueduct system. So the water produced at the plant will be potable, obviously, and then it will be pumped into the Water Authority aqueduct system. From there, it will be distributed in our aqueduct pipelines all over the county, basically. But that means that the project will have access to the regional demand, which means that there is going to be sufficient demand, basically, to run the project at its optimum level year round. We won't have to deal with the reduction in demand that can occur during the wintertime, since we have access to the larger regional demand network. One of the things that is key to this project, since it would be the first large-scale desalination project in California, is that there is a quality contracting team that is going to build this project that has experience doing large-scale desalination plants. And Poseidon has, through a procurement, put together what we think is a contracting team that can do just that. They have combined with the contracting team is really a joint venture of Kiewit, who's a large major contractor in the area, along with IDE, Israeli Desalination Engineers. I mentioned earlier the largest desal plants in the world. IDE was the firm that designed those plants, and so we have a lot of faith in the fact that there is a contracting team there that can execute this project and put together a desalination plant that will run for a long, long time. We expect that we will see water from this facility sometime in 2015, 2016 timeframe. So depending upon when we finish up our water purchase agreement negotiations, and then Poseidon will sell bonds for the project and get it financed through a combination of bonds and equity, private equity coming in to finance a portion of the project. And then it would move into a 33-month period of design and construction. I'm going to move quickly on to Camp Pendleton. Water Authority is looking at the opportunities for a large regional desalination facility at Camp Pendleton. We recently completed a feasibility study that looked at the opportunity to do a large project. And one of the things that's important to point out about the Camp Pendleton site is it is unique in that it is a North San Diego County site, so that we could put water into our aqueducts and maximize our ability to distribute water, since our aqueducts essentially run from north to south. So the more further north you are, the more opportunity you have to distribute water. The other thing is it is a potential opportunity unique in that there are some large available parcels of land there that could potentially be utilized. That's not necessarily the case as you look at the rest of San Diego County when you're considering the opportunity to find 25 or 30 acres along the coastline. Those of you that are familiar with the coast or live by the coast know that land is at a premium along the coast, and to have the opportunity to secure a site in the order of 25 to 30 acres is unique. And so we have been working quite closely with the leadership at Camp Pendleton, and they have been very supportive of us continuing to look at the potential for a desalination plant at Camp Pendleton. The size could range anywhere from the size of Carlsbad, 50 million gallons per day, all the way up to 150 million gallons per day. If you translated that into acre feet, that's 168,000 acre feet annually. One of the differences between Camp Pendleton and Carlsbad is the Carlsbad desal plant is being sited at an existing power plant, and there is an existing seawater intake and discharge system there that would be utilized, or in another word would be piggybacked onto to do the desalination plant. You don't have that at Camp Pendleton. You would need to build an entirely new water intake and discharge system. So with that comes additional costs. There's also additional then opportunity to develop perhaps a state-of-the-art intake system, perhaps something that would use either an open ocean intake or a subsurface intake that would further reduce any impacts to marine life. And intake has really arisen to be one of the key issues in terms of permitting for a desalination plant. So we are in the process of doing further studies. We're looking at the intake issues off the coast. We are looking at how we would site facilities at these two locations. You can see the locations highlighted here. They're basically on either side of I-5, just south and just north of the mouth of the Santa Margarita River. And we're also looking at ways that we can convey that water from Camp Pendleton and again, move it into the regional aqueduct system. Finally, there's a lot of talk about desalination in Mexico, and the Water Authority is involved in a multi-agency process to look at the potential to augment Colorado River supplies. Obviously, there's no more water available on the river than there is. However, there are potentially ways to create new water that could be used by the Colorado River agencies. And so a feasibility study was completed back in 2000, last year I think they completed that, and the idea was to look at the opportunities for desalination in Rosarito. And Rosarito is a power station very similar to Carlsbad, so the same type of desalination facility and configuration as Carlsbad could be built there. There are multiple agencies involved, including the Water Authority, Metropolitan, Southern Nevada, Arizona. Mexico is involved, and the idea is to just take this feasibility study one step at a time, and actually we're poised to begin the next feasibility study phase, which is kind of phase 2. Phase 1 said, yeah, there's no fatal flaws here. Phase 2 is looking more closely at the cost, at the site configuration, where the water would go. Would the water go to Mexico and be traded off for Mexico's Colorado River allocation, or would the water be pumped north so that it could be used here in the U.S.? Those are questions that would be evaluated as we proceed to the next phase of study for a potential project in Mexico. And these projects, I kind of laid them out in order of how far they are along. I would say obviously Carlsbad is the furthest along, followed by Camp Pendleton, and then Rosarito Beach is much less further along than the other two. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.